for the coming very, very warm day. I was just wondering what happened to the sun. It just keeps coming at the same time. Alright, we meditate for 2 minutes. I like to work the Subodha, you can do the meditation for 2 minutes.
All right, let's get into a comfortable position and begin with 3 deep breaths. And now let us think thoughts of loving kindness, goodwill, metta, beginning with ourselves. And though we say words out loud and in our minds, we need to make sure that we also say these in our hearts, that these are felt, that these are sincere wishes and wholesome desires for our true and lasting happiness. We might say to ourselves, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May I live with heart and mind unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May I look after myself with ease. And extend these thoughts to your loved ones, your family, your friends, your teachers and guides, all those that you admire, respect. May they be happy, may they be peaceful, may they be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And then extend your metta to your acquaintances, those that you don't know so well. May they also be happy. May they also be peaceful. May they also be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they also live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And we also extend our goodwill, our loving kindness to those that we have difficulty getting along with, even those that we don't like, even those that may call us enemy. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. May they be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And it is in this spirit of admirable friendship with all beings everywhere that we extend our metta, our loving kindness, our goodwill to all sentient beings everywhere in all directions of the cosmos, to the north, to the east, to the south, to the west, above and below, outward, to all beings everywhere. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful. May we all be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May we all live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May we all look after ourselves with ease. And now, with our hearts and minds uplifted with the metta that we have cultivated, let us turn our attention to the breath. Settle into a point in the body where you feel the breath most easily. It could be the tip of the nose, it could be the chest or the stomach. But settle in on that one spot and become aware of the breath coming in and going out. Settle your attention unwaveringly ardent, alert, mindful. Set aside greed and distress with reference to the world. Give no thoughts to the past, to the future, no fanciful thoughts, no worries, no concerns. Set aside all burdens and infatuations and settle in right now with the breath, as it comes in, as it goes out. Whether the breath be long or short, deep or shallow, keep your attention there unwaveringly. If you find the breath difficult, tense, you can ask yourself what kind of breathing would feel the most gratifying or satisfying right now. And see how the body responds. Allow the breath to become comfortable. You really need not do much. Oftentimes the breath is uncomfortable because we are getting in the way, holding tightly to what we think is a comfortable breath right now. Oftentimes what's needed is a loosening of the grasp. So allow the breath to become comfortable. And allow your awareness of the breath to spread throughout the body so that you become aware of the whole body breathing. Outward from the place where you feel the breath most easily, we give rise to a centered yet expansive awareness in the body. Breathing in such a way that we connect body, mind, and heart through the breath. Anytime the mind wanders, bring it back. Anytime a sensation arises in the body, whether it be pleasant or unpleasant, let it be washed away by the breath, as if the whole body is being bathed in the breath. Continue to keep the breath as your focus, as your object of meditation, breathing comfortably this way until you hear the bell.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Subodha, leading the meditation. Right now, time for the Dhamma talk. Our speaker, Sai, is here. We are happy to see you, Sai, again here. So you can start your Dhamma talk right now.
වාස්නේ මහානේ පුදුම වාස්නයක් නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතෝ අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස ඒකං ධම්මං අතීතස්ස මුසාවාදිස්ස ජන්තුනෝ විතින්න පරලෝකස්ස නත්ති පාපං අකාරියං. Venerable Sir, Bhante Santi and Bhante Ratnasara and their friends in Dhamma. Can you hear me fine? Okay. I hear a lot of fan noise in the background. As always, it's always a pleasure to be here on Sunday to share some Buddha's teaching with you and engage in this practice, learning about the Buddha's teaching and trying to find what can we do to improve our life, to live a content life. And I've been talking about the teachings from the middle length discourses. That's a Majjhima Nikaya. And for this meeting, I thought to share about the 4th precepts. You're familiar with 5 precepts, right? There are 5 precepts, and the 4th one is about telling lies. And the Gatha I mentioned in Pali, to give you a loose translation, it means there is one thing that humans should not engage in, and it's an old practice. And once the person violates this thing, which is telling a deliberate lie, there is nothing that person wouldn't do in life. So it's a very powerful statement that Buddha made. Ekang dhammang atitasya musavadisya jantuno. Humans, and I've seen some studies, like there was a show called Brain Games, and they conducted an experiment on very young children, and they found that humans are designed to lie. I was surprised. So lying is very easy for humans. But the Buddha was pointing out, well, that is one thing you should not do, even for a joke. If you protect that, that means you have something to preserve. And this comes from a nice interaction between the Buddha and his own son, young monk Rahula. This was during the Buddha's time. The monk was very young, Rahula, and Buddha visited his own son for just check-in. And that day, there is a tradition, if you are not familiar, you might have seen sometime when, I think in Sri Lankan temple, when they invite monks, they have a bowl of water to wash their feet. And that's just symbolic, not like they're washing it, just like pour some water on their feet to welcome them in your house or in your space. So that's what Rahula was doing. He poured some water on Buddha's feet and allowed Buddha to walk in. As soon as Buddha walked in and sat down, Buddha used that pot, the little pot, as an analogy to teach him about how should we engage in this practice. And it's a very nice analogy. I find it very nice. I hope you do too. And the pot has a very little water left after you wash the Buddha's feet. And Buddha pointed out, Rahula, do you see how much water is left in that pot? And Bhante Rahula replied, yes, Bhante, there is so little, just a little bit left. And Buddha used that analogy to tell the people who tell sampajana musawadi, that's a Pali term for a deliberate lie, intentional lies. A person who engages in deliberate lies is only worth that much, so little, very little bit value in that person. And Buddha asked to, let's flip that pot. to dump that water that's there, toss it away. And the Rahula did it, and Buddha asked, do you see how much water was there to toss? And Rahula said, yes, I saw there was very little. And Buddha said, that's how much value he has left to, or they have left to spare, the one who engaged in deliberate lies. And the Buddha asked to put the pot upside down, and then asked, do you see how, the sitting is upside down, you can't put in there anything. In the same manner, the person who engaged in deliberate lies cannot hold on to any values in life. He is so upside down. And then Buddha pointed out how hollow and empty the pot is. That is how the person is who engaged in deliberate lies. So just to give you these 4 stages of that pot, to tell the person who engaged in deliberate lies are, there is nothing they won't do. And we can see many examples. Tomorrow you can see a lot if you follow the politics. There's going to be a big debate, and you can just keep counting how many lies they might throw to fool public. And these guys are leading the whole nation, right? I'm not going to take a side, but if you lie, then what would you do to protect yourself, to protect your regiment? So Buddha was pointing this out, and he gave another wonderful analogy. In fact, I'm talking about this sutta called Ambalattika Rahulavada, the advice to Bhante Rahula. And Buddha used this analogy. If you think of the old days, they used to train elephant for battle, right? If you see an elephant fighting in the battle, they would use every part of their body except the trunk. They would use their legs, their arms, their body. Entire body is devoted to fight that war, the battle, but not the trunk. Why? That is their life. That is the line of life, lifeline. And if you see an elephant who has thrown their trunk in the war, you should give up on that elephant, because there is nothing to protect for that elephant. The same manner, Buddha said, that's how lies are. And there's one point, it's beautiful, I just quoted in my note, Hasapi na musa bhanisami. Take an oath, make a promise that I wouldn't even lie for the sake of joke, because it's very harmful, and once you start doing that, there is not much you can protect about yourself, just like the analogy. But it is the pot or the elephant. And Buddha went on asking, it's a wonderful sutta, what do you think is the purpose of a mirror? And the Bhante Rahula said, it's for reflection, to see how you are, who you are, before you get out. I'm sure we all do that. Stand in front of the mirror to see if you're wearing right, if there's any spot on your face that should be cleaned up, so on. And Buddha used, that should be the purpose of Dhamma. That's how the Dhamma should be used. Not to brag, not to put someone else down, not to seek, that's a higher achievements, so to speak, and not what, I know we practice, Subodha mentioned, may we be happy. And I was thinking in Pali, most of the time we say, may we be free from something that is inflicting us, rather than for happy. Because happiness will follow. For example, when you practice loving kindness, the Pali terms there is like ahang awero homi. It's about you. Vera is hatred. It's such a strong term in Pali. And the analogy that Buddha gave, when somebody has invested or cultivated hatred, it's like the stained piece of cloth. There is no way you can wash it off. You have to cut it off, because you cannot wash it off. It's very strong. And that's how hatred is in our heart. And Buddha's teaching of loving kindness is to remove that. Ahang awero homi. I want to be free from hatred. Ahang avyapajjo homi. I want to be free from aversive thoughts. I don't want to wish anyone to be dead, anyone to be hurt. I want to be free from that aversion. Anigo homi. I don't want to wish any conflict, inflict any kind of pain on other people. Avyapajjo homi, anigo homi, sukhi attanang pariharami. I want to treat myself in a good way that doesn't add more pain or suffering. Now that comes in many forms. I can think of the way we eat, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we drive, right? You see that. So you're saying that the loving kindness is like how we manage ourselves. I'm going to conduct myself in a way that does not add any more trouble. That's what loving kindness is. It's not just like sitting down, closing your eyes, saying all kind of things. You step away. As soon as you see something, you lost your mind. That is not what the purpose of loving kindness. And going back to the sutta itself, and Buddha explained, Dhamma should be for your reflection. You look at it, and Buddha gave very clear analogy. What is it, the purpose of Dhamma? And he simplified, well, we do things with 3 doors. That's what we call in Pali, 3 doors. That's like your body, your speech, and your mind. Those are the 3 doors that we engage in some kind of action. And Buddha gave this is a wonderful explanation. When you use your body to engage in an act, doesn't matter what kind of action. You use your body, you're about to. So let me give you in these phrases, because he talked about in 3 stages of action. You're about to do something with your body. And when you're at that point, Buddha said, use the Dhamma to reflect. Attavyabadhaya. Is my action going to cause any harm to myself? Paravyabadhaya. Is my action going to cause any harm to others? Ubhayavyabadhaya. Is my action going to cause any harm to myself or others? Once you think at that level, this is before you do something. Now we talk about mindfulness. That's where mindfulness is. So it's not about closing your eyes, focusing on your breath. This is about every day, thousands of actions we do. You take that pause, extremely short pause, to reflect, is my action going to hurt me, others, or both? And if you find that it is going to happen, it's going to hurt you, others, or both, you know the result of that action is unskillful. In Pali we call akusala. So that's the definition of what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. And that hurtful thing will lead to unwholesome action. It's unskillful. And you try your best. But they didn't say you refrain from them all the time, because this was an advice to a young person, Rahula. He said, you try your best to not engage in that action. Now this is before you engage in that action. And then there was a second part, karantanam. When you are engaging in that action, is it hurting me? Is it hurting someone else? Or is it going to hurt both of us? So this is during the action is taking place. You reflect on that Dhamma, you look at it. If that is the case, then you know this is going to be unwholesome or unskillful action. You try your best to refrain from it. And the last part is kattva. After you engage in that action, you think about it. Did I hurt myself or others or both of them? And then you look at it. If the action has that consequences, that's unskillful. And if the action you engage in, bodily action, is not hurting you, others, or both, you know that is a skillful action. That's what Buddha called kusala. Right? You do that with before you engage in an action, during and after. And that is the physical part, the bodily action. And same thing with before you speak. Am I going to say something that's going to hurt me or others or both? And same thing while you're saying it and after you said it. And same thing with the mind. And a lot of the time people don't think that your mind can do very dangerous act as well. That one of the worst thing it can do is having a wrong view. That can lead the whole nation into a disaster. At the same time, at personal level, you can live your entire life. I shared a sutta from the last meeting. I talked about the person who taught practicing or following the life of dog and a cow can lead to a divine life. That is a wrong view. And they'll spend the entire life living like that. So mind can do extremely dangerous things. One of the worst thing is having that strong attachment. That's called in Pali, we call abhijja. And the other one is vyapada, wishing hurtful things for others. So Buddha showed these 3 ways to reflect, and he taught what is wholesome or what is skillful and what is unskillful. What if we have already done? Now, you may know more about Bhante Rahula. He was young. He was 7 years old when he became monk. Buddha wanted to give him some advice how to overcome some of the challenges. I used to be a monk, so I know that we make a lot of mistakes. We were not perfect. We get into trouble. We get punished. And sometimes we get a lot of extra chores because we were still learning. And Buddha gave him opportunity. And in that same sutta, Buddha gave, what if you have engaged in things that is hurtful to you, others, or both? And Buddha said, you confess. You go and find a teacher who understands the Dhamma. You tell them. And this is really powerful to me. I'm teaching psychology. I talk to students, some students who have made mistakes or made wrong choices in their life. And I tell them that you need to find somebody who will hold you accountable. Because if you're secretive, if you continue to engage in that action again and again, you will never get out of it. And Buddha's advice is you have to go to talk to somebody. It's not in a way that there's the popular way of confession. You do wrong things and you tell somebody to ask for forgiveness and you repeat the cycle. It's more so, I did this once and I want to stop this from repeating. That should be the purpose. And this Rahulavada Sutta provides you, I hope it provides you a nice way to think. Am I doing, thinking, and saying things that is skillful? If it is not, then you need to find a way to, how do I reduce that? And that's where I like to connect. When every time you come to the temple, whether it's Sunday or you do your everyday reflection at your home, if you're doing loving kindness, bring that knowledge to yourself. That should be the purpose. Think of, am I practicing skillful things? And when you say loving kindness, now we said about the actions, it can come in many forms. The way we eat. Am I eating things that is healthy for myself? Am I associating people that could make my life any better? And I talk about suicide in my field. Some people think of that as an excuse. And for some reason, for last couple weeks, I've been dealing with some loss. So I lost a family member. And I also heard about some friends, my students, they talk about their loss. And one thing I heard here, which is new to me, even I've been here for a while, is that after the person has died, they said, oh, they're free from the suffering now, they will be in a good place. I don't agree. I completely disagree, because they had a miserable life here. And they died. And people speak, oh, they died, they're free from all the pain and all the difficulties, all the challenges they had. Now they're in a good place. How do you know? How could you be so sure about it? To me, your next life is a perfect reflection of this life. If you had a terrible life, if you made a terrible choices in this life, don't expect anything to be better. Expect worse, I would say. Expect worse than what we had now, because that's not another person. There is nobody to, give you a nice shower off your bad deeds to give you a fresh start. If you are listening to Buddha's teaching, you know that your actions, your thoughts, they all are the energy you're collecting for next life. If you're engaged in lying, beating your family members, not being truthful, getting into trouble, drinking, using drugs, that's how your life was, you cannot have a pure and clean start, because that behavior. Think of changing the country, to keep it simple. You lived in a country with all those habits, and you move to another country. Let's say even you move to the moon or the Mars. I don't think you can have a fresh start. Your behaviors, your habits, they follow you. It doesn't matter which part of the world you go. And same thing applies to life after death. What I heard more so when I hear these comments is like, well, that's a good way to console yourself, but it's a lie. It's a lie that you tell yourself and others to console, well, that person is in a good place. I question. You want to do that? When you have still time, that's where you have to start. Okay, if my next life is not going to be any better than now, what can I do to reduce, again, unskilled actions and start some skillful actions? And it doesn't need to be another life. That's what I like about Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't ask you to die and to be born again to have a fresh start. It has happened in this life itself. I'm an example of that. Before I was a monk, I had a lot of trouble. I got into a lot of trouble before. That was like a 13 years old boy. And after I left that life, I started learning. I started training under good teachers. My life transformed. And I barely turned 39. So within these 20 years, I improved a lot. I can say that, and if you go to my town, they will test for me. That, oh yeah, he was a troublemaker. And same thing happened in many other lives. Those who had much trouble, much difficulty, because of they learned that they knew about Dhamma and they tried to change. In this very life, those things are possible. So nobody is set to be born with unskillful behaviors. Even you are. That's the beauty of being human. We can change from one state of life to another, which is not available for many other beings. You know, if you see a dog, even you see a dog in Beverly Hills, that dog is still a dog. It's not going to go for a different state of life. Doesn't matter how good their caregivers are. The state remains the same. May live longer a little bit, but they cannot become anything more than a dog. But the humans can. We have that opportunity. And that's what Buddha valued the most. Human life is precious. We have that opportunity. We can transform our life. And I hope this brief talk, teaching from Rahulawada Sutta, you will use. Just to summarize, Buddha showed that Dhamma should be your mirror. You have a mirror at your home, you should write a word Dhamma. That's my another mirror. Right? Have that just for the reflection on your skillful and unskillful action. And one request is, don't even tell a deliberate lie for the sake of joking. So I hope that is a good message for you, and I'll take any questions you have. Thank you. Yes, Ananda.
I have two questions.
Sure, Ananda.
The first question I want to ask, if someone passes away and they had a very bad life, I know a lot of the times people go to the temple and they do the water pouring and they say, do you think, what kind of effect do you think that can have for that person in the rebirth?
So that is based on Buddha's teaching. If you look at one of the suttas in miscellaneous collection, Kuddaka Pata, the sutta has this description. There is one form of life. It's almost like a transition stage of life. Let's say somebody died and they go to this transition. Petakopati Paradatupa Jivi. That means this I don't want to call a world, it's a sphere where living beings are born for a very temporary transition. Whether you're a human, you live in that stage for a very short time. And in that stage, the living family members can share merit. Now, if you look at the word, idamme nyati nang hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo, that means, may this merit be transferred to my relatives so they have a good life, right? That's the wish. But if you look at the action, we call anumodana. That's a Pali term. We call, English translation is wrong. If you tell we are transferring merit, we cannot. The action is called invitation to be joyful. So modati means be happy. Anumodati means be happy with someone else. So you're inviting those departed family members to be happy with them. And in that phrase, that Paradatupa Jivi, the human beings who died recently, and if they're in that transition stage, they can join the living family members through whichever connection. They're not going to be physically present, and they can rejoice your action. You do dana, let's say you do invite monks for almsgiving, or you do some kind of a feeding, you donate something, and you want your relative to be happy with you. And if they are able to join from only that stage is possible, they can free themselves from lower life to better life. Now, it's a very short time period, and it's a very specific state of life. Not everybody. You cannot share merit with humans. What's your daughter's name? Vivian, right? So if I want to do a biggest dana or generosity, and I want to wish Vivian a good, happy, healthy, long life, you could, if Vivian also pay attention to the action, joins that action. Not if she is in a different state and you just tell like, this is for my daughter, this is for my son, I'm doing it. You cannot transfer merit as human to humans. They themselves have to do it. But in that short phase we call the transition phase, they can't. So that's the purpose, and in Buddhist tradition, we believe that a lot of people, when they die, they are in that short transition phase, and we try to share merit, and again, not giving them anything, as inviting them to rejoice with us. And if they did, then that is possible. They would elevate their state of life. You said you had another question. I don't know if I answered the first one.
Another question, but just to get this clear, you cannot transfer the merit to the departed relatives?
Not all, not everybody. There should be in a state we call paradatupajivi. That means people who live off others' offering. That's what that means, paradatupajivi. If they are in that stage, yes, you can. If they are already being born, and there's another practice we do, we share merit with gods too, right? That's the Buddhist God, not the God that we know in general. We can invite them, right? We can Akasatta Jabummata Devanagam. We say that chanting, we invite those different living beings to come and rejoice with us. Now there is nothing transferred like you wire money. Your invitation to see your action and feel good about it. That's what the Anumodana means.
Because my father, he had this habit where when we were driving, he would always give money to the homeless people.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes I'll give money to the homeless people, and I'll remember my dad, and I'll say, may the power of his merit be transferred to him. So,
Well, I'm not discouraging you to discontinue that. You should. At least it kept you in that behavior. It kept you to practice generosity. And there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it.
but I was really doing it because I thought that I was going to help him.
And like what we talked today, your dad, I don't think needs your, merit at all. If he had a good life, and if he's in a good state, he will be joining you if they are in a place where they can connect. But I don't know any evidence that if the departed one can come back and connect with us. It's our gratitude. So we continue to practice. Even we do that for the Buddha. And Buddha doesn't need anyone's merit. He is already enlightened, but don't we do that? Right? We continue to say, it's our practice. It's more for us to remain in the path. That helps a lot.
Sorry. Does anybody have a question?
Russell, yes, go ahead.
I just had a question. A number of talks ago you mentioned, I forgot which part was talking about a killer who killed many people.
Oh yes, yes, the monk who became a monk, yes.
And then at the end he kind of
Yes.
became enlightened. So today you mentioned that including the dog's life or maybe the killer's life, then well, maybe there's no future. But in those cases, how did they turn? What factor caused them to turn around? And,
It's giving up the wrong view.
they did, right?
They had the wrong view about whatever they were doing. So in Angulimala's case, he was misguided by his teacher. He was asked to bring 1,000 human thumbs as a what do you call Guru Dakshina. I don't know the English term. The treat to his teacher. It's a tradition in ancient Asian university. If you want to be graduated, that's like a graduation. Your teacher will ask for some kind of a treat. And his teacher's request was, bring me 1,000 human thumbs. Weird teacher to have in the first place. But the purpose was his teacher wanted him to be dead in the process of finding 1,000 thumbs, right? And he was misguided. And he thought like, to have my degree to be validated, I need to fulfill my teacher's wish. That was a misguiding. And that's in other side, he was very wise person when he was in the school, but he was misguided. And that's when he met the Buddha. He was able to realize, okay, what am I doing? This is not the right path I should go. And same thing with the other two character I shared. One person was Punna. He was following his entire life as a dog, and the other one was following entire life as a cow. It's a type of rituals they do. So they were misguided. They thought, if I live my life like a dog, I will achieve the heavenly life or heavenly happiness. That is a wrong view. And the way they get out of that was, Buddha said, like, well, let me tell you. Buddha resisted. He said, I'm not going to tell you what happens because it's going to hurt you so much. You spent so many years with this belief. But they insisted. And Buddha told, well, this is the possible consequences. Because you are taking this wrong view, you're living your whole life in the wrong direction, and the consequence is more than likely it will be painful. And they realized, they cried, nobody would want to know that you spend your entire life in the wrong direction, right? They woke up, and that helped them to overcome. So that's why I was giving example, wrong view is one of the worst thing that can do. And in Buddhist script, you will find many places Buddha warn about, be careful of the wrong views. It comes in Buddhism as well. There are a lot of wrong views within Buddhism, within Buddhist practice. Like Ananda's question, if we don't read the sutta, if we don't tell what's explained in the sutta, we are misguiding people within or through Buddhism. A lot of them. And if you go, I've joked about it, and I still tell, in Nepal, we have a lot of those practices as well. And so is in Sri Lanka. And it can come in many forms. Now the most popular things, that wrong view, is some monks in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. So I don't see much in Nepal because we don't have many monks. Those monks claim to be enlightened. And they are not. So that's a wrong view to have. You're not enlightened and you claim to be enlightened. Why? For the sake of fame and glory. There you go. Even as a monk, you can misguide yourself so much and misguide hundreds of people, thousands of people. So that's where wrong view can come. It's not just outside of Buddhism, it can spur within Buddhism, and that can hurt. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because I'm not trying to attack anybody's culture. If there is a wrong view, that culture is wrong, regardless what that culture is. Because wrong view can hurt a lot. It can hurt Sri Lankans, it can hurt Nepalese, Bangladesh, Americans, it can hurt anybody. So that's where we start the Eight Noble Path, with the right understanding, right view. So it goes along. So wrong view is very dangerous. It's changeable. That's a good news. Any other question? Yes, Ananda. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I started wondering if there was other parts of the Noble Path that go more deeply. For example, what is the correct way to understand the right path of the Noble Path?
That I can talk about that in a different meeting, but just to keep it simple, Samma Ditti is the right view, and Miccha Ditti. Samma Sankappa is, I mentioned about two. You having free from hatred, right? Vyapada Sankappa, that's the aversive thought. You want somebody to be dead. And Avihingsa Sankappa, that means to non-violent thinking, right? And the other one is Nekkamma Sankappa. You want to be practicing detachment. So those three, non-aversive, non-violent, and detachment. So if you practice your mind in those three principles, we call Samma Sankappa, right? And same thing with Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, the practice with the speech, right? You refrain from 4 wrong practice of speech: lying, gossiping, empty talks, and harsh talks. You stay away from those 4. And Samma Kammanta, not kill, not steal, not engage in sexual misconduct. That's the right side. And Samma Vayama, you mentioned, there are 4 ways to do it. You do something wrong, you make effort to get out of it. You haven't done something wrong, you put effort to not get into that. You engage in good behavior, you put effort to keep that up. And you don't have a good practice, you make effort to have that practice. So there's 4 ways to put effort on. So that's the Vayama. And Samadhi, Samma Sati and Samma Samadhi is right mindfulness and right concentration. So they complement each other. They're not like individually practiced. Once you learn one skill, you complement each other. And the other one complements this practice. So without right view, you can't have a right thought. Without right thought, you cannot have right action or speech. So that goes all the way through concentration. I hope that was helpful, Ananda. Non-aversion, non-violence, and detachment.
All right, Anand. Thank you, Sai. Yes, we can chant page 4 and page 10. Now, so you have your chanting book. Go to the page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to save all. Dharma grades are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shadow of grief seek find help relief. Thank you, Sai. Thank you for everybody. Next Sunday, I think Subodha is going to give a Dhamma talk. I don't think so. We need tea today because it's too hot. Well, it's okay. Sometimes, once you have a very warm day, you have to have a little bit warm tea. So it's warm is so okay. So thank you again for everybody. Thank you, Sai. Hope to see you next week. Thank you coming with your baby today.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you.
She's very cute and very good behavior sitting. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day for everybody. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, you all be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.